Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today. If you're a focused learner looking for a super clear, vibrant, and engaging breakdown of the core concepts behind production and development, well, you are in the exact right place. This topic is absolutely essential for understanding how our world actually works, especially if you're diving into your Class 10 social studies for the Telangana syllabus. Today, we are going to unpack exactly how a country's wealth is measured, built, and sustained. We're going to build it up, block by block. So let's kick things off with a bit of a mystery. Go ahead and put on your economic detective hats for a second, because the question we're facing today is simple, but honestly, it's massive. How do we actually measure if a whole entire country is rich or poor? When you hear a finance minister on the news saying the economy is up or down, what exactly are they looking at? Well, here is our roadmap for today to figure that out. First, what is GDP? Second, the three work sectors. Third, the employment income gap. Fourth, understanding disguised unemployment. Fifth, organized versus unorganized work. And finally, number 6, creating better job opportunities. Let's start with section 1. What exactly is GDP? Picture this. You're walking down the street. You see someone walking by who maybe isn't dressed very well, looks like they're struggling a bit. Then, right after, someone else drives past in a brand new sports car, wearing the latest designer sunglasses. Right away, just by looking at their assets, you can immediately guess who has wealth and who doesn't. We judge a person's wealth by their income and their accessories, right? Well, to judge an entire country, we have to look at its total income in a very similar way. And that brings us to a really crucial term, GDP. It stands for Gross Domestic Product. You can think of it as the ultimate income indicator for a nation. It literally represents the entire income a country pulls in through all of its various sources, its individuals and its productions. Basically, it's the ultimate scoreboard for the financial health of the nation. So you might be wondering, how on earth is this calculated without making massive math mistakes? Let's track some rice to find out. Say a farmer sells paddy for 2,500 rupees. The miller transforms it into rice and husk and sells it to a hotel owner for 3,600 rupees. Finally, the hotel owner turns that rice into some delicious idlis and dosas, selling the final breakfast for 5,000 rupees. Now, here is the secret. We only count that final 5,000 rupees toward the GDP. If we added all those previous steps together, we'd accidentally be counting the exact same rice 3 times. So GDP only cares about the final product. Moving right along to section 2, the 3 work sectors. Where does all this GDP actually come from? First up is the primary sector. Think of this as the oldest foundation of our economy. It includes basic activities that are entirely dependent on nature. We're talking farming, fishing, agriculture, things like that. And if you look back, say 50 or 60 years ago, up to 80 or 90% of people depended heavily on this sector just to make a living. Next, we have the secondary sector. This one is all about industry. This is where the raw materials from that primary sector get transformed into something completely new through small and large-scale manufacturing. Right after India's independence in the 1950s, the first 5-year plans heavily stressed this kind of industrial development. It sparked an industrial revolution that shifted tons of people away from farming and brought brand new income streams into their families. And finally, we have the tertiary sector. This is the modern powerhouse. It is the service-oriented industry. So think IT, hospitals, banking, insurance, hotels. In this sector, you aren't producing a physical crop or a physical good. You're being paid for your services. Over the last 30 years, this sector has just exploded. In fact, if you look at fully developed nations like America or Australia, the vast majority of their population works in this tertiary sector, with fewer than 5 out of every 100 people still working in agriculture. It's a huge shift. Which leads us perfectly into section 3, the employment income gap. All right, let's dive into some wild numbers from the 2011 census. Out of the roughly 460 million people employed productively in India at that time, a staggering 60% of the workforce was in agriculture. But here's the crazy part. That massive chunk of the workforce produces less than 20%, just 1/6 of the entire country's GDP. It's a massive imbalance. And when we look at a 40-year growth timeline, this gap becomes even crazier. Over 40 years, the industry sector's GDP grew 9 times over. The service sector's GDP grew an incredible 14 times. So those remaining 40% of workers in those sectors are generating over 70% of the country's wealth. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The actual jobs in those sectors didn't grow at the same rate. Industrial jobs only grew 3 times, and surface jobs only grew 5 times. So what happens to the people caught in the middle? Let's look at Section 4, Understanding Disguised Unemployment. Let's put a human face to these abstract numbers. Take a look at a real-world example from our source material. Meet Gayathri's family. They are a family of 5, mother, father, Gayathri, and 2 brothers. They own a single farm plot. But because they depend entirely on rain and don't have a reliable water tank, they can only manage to produce 1 crop a year. Yet all 5 family members are out there working on this single farm. This situation perfectly illustrates a vital economic concept called disguised unemployment. Think about it. Imagine if Gayathri's 2 brothers left the family farm to go work a productive job somewhere else. The farm would still produce that exact same single crop, right? The family's agricultural output wouldn't drop one bit. That means the brothers are currently experiencing disguised unemployment. They look like they're working, they're physically out in the field sweating, but they aren't working to their full potential, and they aren't adding any extra financial income to the family unit. Now contrast that with underemployment. Because the service and industrial sectors haven't created enough jobs for everyone, not every educated person can find a spot. You might have someone with a master's degree who is forced to work as a basic clerk, a tutor, or even pulling a cart on the street just to get by. They are employed, yes, but they are working way below their high qualifications and their true potential. This brings us to Section 5, Organized versus Unorganized Work. Think about the actual day-to-day environments people work in. In the organized sector, everything is super systematic. It follows factory acts, minimum wage laws, workers get fixed salaries, regular hours, paid Sundays off, and pensions when they retire. It's secure. But in the unorganized sector, it is complete chaos. There are no fixed rules, absolutely no guaranteed security. Companies use temporary contracts, firing people without reason. It's a really harsh use-and-throw reality that forces a lot of people to just try and open small street shops to survive. So, how many people are actually dealing with that chaotic reality? 92%. A shocking 92% of India's workforce is trapped in this unorganized sector, working without a safety net, without rules, and without proper security. That means only a tiny 8% of the workforce gets to enjoy the benefits of the organized sector. Okay, Section 6, Creating Better Job Opportunities. How do we fix this? The solutions rely heavily on human development. First, the government or banks need to provide loans at very low interest rates so farmers don't fall into the clutches of predatory moneylenders just to buy seeds and fertilizer. Second, constructing small check dams and lakes so families aren't relying entirely on rainfall. Imagine if Gayathri's family could grow 3 crops a year instead of 1. That instantly creates productive work for those disguised unemployed family members. And finally, technological training. Today, farming involves modern machines. Across all sectors, we absolutely must train people to manage new technology effectively. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. The economy isn't just numbers on a board. It's made up of real people finding their best, most productive place in the world. As the tertiary sector continues to grow and technology advances, how will you use your unique skills and training to add value to our economy's final output? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me today to explore the building blocks of production and development. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.